Disclaimer! The following episode contains spoilers for Black Widow. Don't go crying to your mum if we spoil it for you. You've been warned. Welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast for a place to hang your cape. And this week, hello. How long's it been since the movie should have come out? We're talking about Black Widow! Cue the music! Hello there, Capers, and as I said, welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. My name's Scott James Merridew, and this is a show where we talk about various geek and nerd-related topics, and I'm joined each week by a very special different guest. It's Jillian Diblasio, everyone!
Hello.
Hi, Jillian. Your upbeat tone suggests that you've had a great time reviewing this movie with me.
Actually, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
That should have been on the poster. Not as bad as I thought it would be.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, it was fine. We'll get into it.
Yeah, we will get into all of that. I'm sure at this moment you're just glad that we're not reviewing something like Birdemic, like all those other bad films I made you watch.
Yeah, exactly.
This
is an upgrade.
Absolutely. But speaking of things we'd rather not be doing, let's talk about the news. So a whole bunch of news in terms of trailers are coming out this week. 3 trailers I want to talk about. First of all, it actually came out a few episodes ago, but I've only recently just realised the full horror that is the trailer for Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Oh yeah, I saw that trailer.
It looks so stupid. Now
it does, but it looks stupid, but like it's a stupid that might just be enjoyable to watch.
It's stupid, but it might just work. Jack Whitehall, whose film career I cannot track, 1 minute he's in a fucking side character in a Disney movie, the next he's in Clifford the Big Red Dog. I don't know. And it looks kind of horrifying, but bear in mind, I did not grow up watching or reading, I don't know what it was, like Clifford the Big Red Dog.
It's a book series.
It's a book series, so I don't have that connection.
Show.
I see, okay. I wondered if I thought it was one or the other, I didn't know it was both.
It's both. And
now it's a full live-action fiction-like movie featuring a monstrously horrific CGI dog.
Yeah.
Honestly, the demonic shade of red is the least of its problems. It's a hellhound come to devour all of our souls. Slightly better trailers, though. There's a trailer, well, I say trailer, it was more like not so much a proof of concept, but a behind-the-scenes vignette look at the upcoming Star Wars Visions, an anthology anime take on the Star Wars Galaxy universe, and it looks pretty damn good.
I mean, I saw that the trailer dropped, but I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know.
It's a lot of different... Here's the thing, they brought together a lot of different animation studios, a lot of different anime studios to create their own little short films they're going to put into an anthology film, and you can tell that a lot of people working on the movie have a lot of passion for Star Wars, for anime, obviously, and it looks really cool because, I mean, as any Star Wars fan will know, a lot of Star Wars is based around this Akira Kurosawa film, Hidden Fortress, and Akira Kurosawa films in general. So it has this real big inspirational root in Japanese cinema. So taking it back to that root is something that I think is really clever, and I'm really looking forward to see what they do with it. A lot of them look really cool and interesting. The designs look epic in scale. Honestly, just as a trailer, I think it looks pretty damn cool. Then we get to a sort of a middling trailer, the upcoming Disney film Encanto.
Oh yeah, I did watch that trailer too.
You didn't? So you did or you didn't watch that trailer?
I did.
Okay.
I mean, it's a little hard to see. Like, I don't really have an opinion on the movie yet because it's just a teaser trailer. But, you know, Lin-Manuel Miranda's in it, so I'm going to watch it.
Okay. Like, I love Lin-Manuel Miranda as much as the next guy. He's a fucking genius, but him being involved in a project does not automatically make it good.
No, it doesn't. It just means I'm going to simp over it and watch it.
Oh, yeah, fair. Oh, well, we're all going to do that. Okay,
Yeah,
even I'm not immune to that. Jesus. I mean, if I'm willing to sit through an entire parody musical of Hamilton based around Dungeons and Dragons, purely because it sounds like something Lin-Manuel Miranda would do, I'm willing to watch this movie. My issue is, I mean, there was a previous teaser trailer, like a very short, like stinger trailer released a couple of months ago. And you could tell that the movie is set in Colombia because the song had just one lyric, someone singing Colombia. Like,
I mean, I don't remember that. I don't remember that part of the trailer. I do remember like how it looked.
Yeah,
But
and the upcoming trailer revealed a bit more about the movie, about how it takes place in this one house where everyone has like superpowers. The story centers around this one character who isn't special and doesn't have a gift. Ooh, I wonder if she'll go on a journey of self-fulfillment.
yeah.
The messaging is painful, and I've got a horrible feeling this is all Disney are going to do from now on when it comes to animated films. Very basic, very simple, very bare bones messaging that they just hammer you over the head with. No subtlety, no nuance, no creativity, but you will be distracted by the excellent music, the good voice acting, and yes, the phenomenal animation. And those things are all great, but when the story is lacking, I'm checking out. This is the same thing that happened with Raya. And yes, this is just a trailer, and maybe the movie
you finally
will throw
saw
a spin.
Raya?
Oh, I reviewed it ages ago, and it was shit. But
yeah, well, when I talked to you last, you were like, "Oh, I didn't bother watching it," and I was like, "Oh,
I didn't.
okay."
I didn't bother watching it. I think when it first came out, I think I tried holding off on it until it got out of premiere on Disney Plus.
Yeah, that was a smart thing to do.
Yeah, God, it was. I'm not going to turn this into a rant about Raya. You want to see my rant about Raya? Go listen to the fucking episode. It's basically an hour and a half of me ranting about, oh, we need to trust people. That's every other conversation.
Yeah, I know. I hated that movie, but anyway.
Oh, God. Anyway, after the show, we'll chat about it.
Yeah.
So Encanto, I'm worried that Encanto is going to do the same thing. And just because it's going to involve interesting mythology and you know, culture that we haven't really seen very lot, at least not from, you know, Western, for want of a better phrase, white person audience perspective, isn't going to drag away from the flaws. But again, this is just a trailer. The movie might throw a spin on it. Hopefully it would be better. I would like it to be better because it does look purely visually really lovely and colourful and bright, and again, Lin-Manuel Miranda. Another bit of animated news, an upcoming, I actually think it has premiered, I'll need to double check that, show for preschoolers called Ridley Jones has been announced, and normally I wouldn't mention something like this. It's from the character, from the person who created the show Doc McStuffins, which I've never seen because I'm an adult.
I've seen Doc McStuffins. It's a cute show.
I've heard good things, except that I know Ron Swanson does not like it. There is no silence. There is only Doc McStuffins. But anyway, but the only reason I'm bringing it up is because it seems like it has a pretty good cast. It's got like Jane Lynch and Chris Colfer and a couple of other people that's in it. Blythe Danner's in it, but also apparently one of the characters in it is a bison. Like this is all about this little girl who lives in the Natural History Museum, and she's got like a bunch of friends, one of which is a bison named Fred, who has been announced as non-binary, which is excellent.
Yeah.
Because not just because it's a non-binary bison, which is fun to say under any circumstance, but also because it's great for representation, especially when we're presenting that sort of thing for kids. Apparently Doc McStuffins did that when they had a gay couple on the show, and I think it's always great when you're showing that to kids. So I just wanted to mention that because stuff like that deserves to be mentioned and celebrated. Although I do think they missed a trick by not making the bison bisexual. A bisexual bison would have worked a tiny bit better, in my opinion. But that's just me. Or better yet, a bisexual non-binary bison. Why not have all the things?
Yeah.
And they would also have a name that begins with B because they're called Fred.
Yep.
I don't know. This is just how my mind works. And so that's most of the news, but there is one other bit of news we need to mention, and that is the sad passing of Richard Donner, creator of so many great films like the Superman series and Lethal Weapon. And it's the least we can do is mention the impact he had on cinema. We've all seen films from him. We all like them, even if he did have this weird habit of putting dogs into things. Did you know this? Richard Donner, really, really was more willing to listen to a script pitch of yours if you included a dog in the script. I learned this in university, and that just makes make me like him all the more, frankly.
Sure. I mean, I didn't hear this news, so I have not looked up his filmography to see which films I've seen of his.
Guarantee you've seen at least a few.
Yeah, I probably have. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So we just wanted to mention that because in time passing, it's worth mentioning. And that is the news. Now we're going to have some ads. Check them out.
And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
Black fucking Widow. It's about time.
Yes, it is.
I mean, we should have had this movie after Civil War.
Yep.
And they waited this long after the character's in-universe death, which I maybe it was just me, maybe just from some of the marketing imaging, I got a bit misled. Maybe it was just my own fault, but I thought that the movie would tie into that a bit more. Maybe from the afterlife, she looks upon her life or something. No, in fact, if you hadn't seen Endgame, you'd have no idea that she had died, and spoiler alert, some things later in the movie would have completely blindsided you. And I don't want to say this movie is too little too late, because that's not fair. But it is too late.
Yeah.
You had an opportunity to do a Black Widow movie, or even a Black Widow origin movie, which I would have really liked. I
wanted a movie of what the fuck happened in Budapest. That's what I wanted this movie to be, and it wasn't.
No. Yeah, because I mean, a couple of years ago, I was ranting to David Malofsky, our editor in Cape, about how I wanted a Black Widow origin movie. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I tweeted him just a little thing. It's when she leaves the Red Room, Natasha Romanoff's first mission is to assassinate Nick Fury. So she infiltrates S.H.I.E.L.D. and gains his trust, but finds her loyalties may be divided. After she's framed for betraying S.H.I.E.L.D. by her Russian handlers, she and Hawkeye, the only person who believes her innocence, go on the run to prove her innocence, save Nick Fury, and maybe even defect to S.H.I.E.L.D. And David thought that was actually an official blurb for an upcoming movie that I copy and pasted and just found, because that's what everyone was expecting. That's what everyone thought would make for a great Black Widow movie, and that is not what we got. What we got, I'm sorry to say, is a filler movie.
Yep.
Is it a bad filler movie? Well, we'll go into that, but it very much is a filler movie.
Yep. At least it's not Captain Marvel. That's what I kept telling myself.
I hate to be that guy, but was Captain Marvel that bad?
For me, it was. I fucking hate that movie.
Jesus, am I the only one that thought it was just fine? Not brilliant, but fine, good enough? I know when it comes in terms of Marvel, but...
Andrew thought it was just fine. He doesn't understand my hatred and rage for it. So there you go. Good for
you. Well, I'm in good company with your partner there. Oh, God. So, yeah, Black Widow, not as bad as Captain Marvel. That's another tagline for the poster. So this is set between Civil War and Infinity War, filling in the gaps that we didn't know were there. If there was a big question hanging over there, what happened to Black Widow between these two movies? It was a big question that we were asking ourselves. No one was asking that question.
Yeah, exactly. If anything, this movie confused me more of what was happening in between the two movies, because I thought I had a pretty good idea that she was just, in hiding, with everybody else. And then, they threw in all this shit. And I'm like, wait, what the fuck happened in between these two movies?
And I know it's not really those movies' fault, because they were made before this movie. This is sort of a midquel of sorts, an awkward midquel at that. But No one comments on the events of this movie. Neither Black Widow nor her Avenger friends say, "Hey, so what have you been up to?" "Oh, I've been up to stuff." Doesn't happen. "What have you been up to?" "Oh, I just took down the Red Room, the thing that raised me and turned me into a killing machine and turned many of my innocent girls into killing machines. What have you been up to?" I've been eating Cheetos on the couch with Falcon." Just
Yeah.
never happens. And so the movie is, and again, I hate saying this, kind of pointless. I don't really think you can skip most of the movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You could skip this movie. You can.
Yeah.
I'm not recommending that you do so necessarily, but you can do it. And that's not really a good thing for it to hang over this movie, to be able to skip it. Regardless of its merits, and it does have merits. It's got 80% on Rotten Tomatoes at time of recording, and I think that 80% is well deserved. This is very much an 80% movie, but God, I can't think of a single other. Like, I'm the kind of guy who won't even skip the Incredible Hulk movie. That's my level of dedication. I could skip this movie and not care.
To be fair, I am at the point in Marvel where I am willing to just skip everything that I possibly can because I just don't care anymore. Like, this formula of like superhero formula is just like not interesting to me anymore. That's why I'm super heavily invested in Loki, because it feels different. Like, I'm only from now on gonna watch the movies that feel different. I don't want to watch these like movies that feel like it was just another Marvel movie.
Well, I mean, that's fair enough, to be perfectly honest. But I mean, I could still enjoy it because, I've read all the comics and stuff. And so you get used to the formula. And I don't mind something that's formulaic as long as it's a good formula that's fun. The problem I have is when you have a cinematic universe that is predicated on the idea that everything is interconnected, if not in small ways, then certainly in bigger ways. This movie, my problem with it is that it does not feel connected. It makes references to previous stuff that's happened, but in the same way that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did. It's very much just a case of talking about other stuff that's going on, but isn't really relevant, to give the illusion of connectiveness, rather than actually...
The end credits feel like it's going to connect.
Yeah, but that's like a minute and a half worth of screen time.
Yeah, no,
if even that. The rest of the movie, this is, including credits, 2.25 hours. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's not a good look. But we're not going to waste time talking about it without actually fucking talking about it. So let's get right into it. So we begin in the year 1995 in Ohio, and I'm getting real, the Americans, Reese Matthews, Kerry what's-her-face vibes. As it turns out, this classic pastoral American family is in fact undercover Russian spies, headed by Alexei, played by David Harbour, shaking off those Hellboy blues, and Melina, played by Rachel Weisz. I
don't know how to pronounce it.
Mummy actress. I don't know. That does her a disservice, but nevertheless. And they've got these two little kids, sweet little tiny kid, blonde kid, and blue-haired kid. And it's like, oh, they seem pretty nice. And I'm just thinking like, wow, this is really nicely shot. This is very sweet. What's going on here? Huh? What? Come on, movie. What's the twist? What's happening here? Is this what I thought this was at first, because I had been spoiled that this film would feature Yelena Belova, also known as the Blonde Black Widow from the comics. Who, by the way, as far as I'm aware, is not related in any way, either in a biological or familial way, to Natasha Romanoff. But I thought it was just like her backstory, due to like how she came to be getting into the Red Room. But actually, no, it's both her and Natasha. They're sort of surrogate sisters. And at first you were like, ooh, how much do they know about their parents, super secret spies goings on? Turns out they're actually in on it for the whole thing. Little kids playing along.
Yeah,
and
that whole thing made no sense to me, but whatever, continue.
yeah, just like presumably they go to school. Yelena in particular is like 6 years old. You can't train a 6-year-old to be a spy.
Yeah, exactly.
And that
Kids
does
aren't
tie
that
in.
smart.
They just can't keep secrets. And yeah, that does tie into later on the movie where it's revealed that while Natasha knew deep down that they weren't a real family, Yelena kind of did. But Natasha was, how old was she? Was like 10, 11?
Yeah, she actually looked like 12 even.
Maybe even 12. And so even then, I don't know. She's supposed to have gone through the Red Room already and, been trained and all that. But I don't know. It's a little bit weird. However, that is completely offset by the fact that they... Oh, God. So this is followed by something very stupid and then something very cool. So it's revealed that, Alexei has stolen something from some sort of secret science base or something. And it's like, okay, we gotta go now. They pack up into the car, they drive off. And as they're driving, they go past like an American flag on a bridge and, a high school where they're playing football like it's straight out of Friday Night Lights. And I'm just thinking like, okay, movie, you're laying it on a little bit thick with the Americana. This is... Do we skip something interesting? And then we do a pretty great action scene where they very casually reveal that Alexei has superpowers and they have to fly this plane off of a small runway while being chased by police, and he's shooting the police with a rifle. And honestly, that whole action scene, I think, is probably the best in the movie because it felt real. It was really well blocked, really well choreographed, really well shot. And because there's little kids in peril and stuff, I think that added an extra layer. It felt like they could fail. And indeed, Melina gets, shot and gets really hurt. And so young blue-haired Natasha has to take over flying the plane while David Harbour's clinging to the, wing of the plane. And he hasn't started doing his, drunk Uncle Ivan sort of impression later on in the movie. So it felt really good, and I thought, this looks really cool. I hope they continue this tone throughout the rest of the movie. Yeah, they don't. They really don't. Oh, God.
I feel the sickening threat of brutal honesty, and I'm wildly uncomfortable.
I don't want to say it gets worse from here on out, but this movie sets up an expectation that it has no interest in following through on.
Yep.
And so from then, we cut to not the present day, but 21 years later, right after the whole thing with the Sokovia Accords and Germany went down in Captain America's Civil War. And William Hurt is out there hunting Black Widow. Does he do anything else these days? He is in 2 scenes of this movie, barely on screen for a minute. Does anyone ever think that he's a good enough actor? I know he's kind of present in these movies and they don't think he's kind of disposable, just there to be like, oh, I'm the human military, blah, 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 and here, stick in the mud, here to punish superheroes and stuff. And then they're just like, okay, you go back into your corner now, old man. Now the fun stuff's going to happen. And it's like, okay. Is anyone else giving him a job these days?
Yeah, I don't know. That whole part, while it was cool how they do the fake out, it's like at the same time, why is this here?
I mean, yeah. Couldn't you just... You could cut it out. Just cut... Spoiler, basically, it seems like they're about to corner Black Widow and about to get a huge action scene, but actually it turns out she's on a ferry in Norway and has disabled her tracker that I guess she just had. Everyone has trackers in this movie.
That was so confusing. I was like, wait, why does she have a tracker? I don't get this. What is happening?
I don't know.
That's what I mean about how this movie made me so confused, because it's bringing in these things that I don't remember from any of the movies. And I'm like, why is this here?
They're bringing them in because someone in the writer's room thought, she has a tracker because spies have trackers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it just leads to a fake out. You could just cut it out and just 21 years later, she's living in exile in Norway. And that's it. I mean, she says later on in the movie, William Hurt, you're not supposed to have, power here or authority here? I don't know. I'm pretty sure, and I don't know this for certain, but I'm pretty sure Norway does have an extradition treaty with America. Like, I don't see why they wouldn't.
I mean, let's be real here. Even if they didn't have authority, the CIA will come in and fuck you up. They've been doing it for years. They will destabilize a region for Black Widow, I feel like. So...
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's Norway isn't going to stop them.
Yeah, Norway is not going to save you.
No, maybe they're just afraid the Vikings will show up. Who knows? And as she's hiding out, and she gets a trailer from her friend Rick Mason, played by this guy who I've never heard of, Oti Fagbini. I don't know how you pronounce his name. He's fine in this movie. He's
Again,
there. He's
another confusing piece of the puzzle. Who the fuck are you? Why have I never heard of you? I didn't think Natasha had to have a special contractor to do cool shit.
Yeah, I mean, again, if it was Hawkeye, that would have made sense. But he's busy shooting his upcoming TV show, so I guess he can't be available. So we get this random guy. And he's just sort of there. He sort of underplays his role, and then he goes, and they mention that the fact that they're friends, they have no chemistry whatsoever. Poor Scarlett Johansson is trying her best, but he's just giving her nothing in return. And then he's just like, okay, I'm giving you a bunch of stuff. Bye! I'll be popping up in the movie whenever you need something. I guess I'm just a plot device. Bye! Yep. And so then she sits down in the trailer, watches a little bit of... Was it Moonraker? Yeah, it was Moonraker. Because I don't know why. Because James Bond spies. This is right. This movie thinks it's a spy movie, but it's not a fucking spy movie.
It's not a spy movie. I don't know why even some reviews and headlines are calling it a spy movie. It is not a spy movie. I was also very confused by that as well.
I mean, because it's Black Widow, you think it would be a spy movie. But it's not, and I don't know why, because Black Widow is a fucking spy! Although, in fairness, she's not a great spy nowadays, because over the radio they announced that Captain America, Steve Rogers, and Natasha Romanoff have, escaped the authorities. Her name's out of the public now. People know her. I always assumed, she was known as Avenger, but only through a code name. The person who can only identify as Black Widow is part of the Avengers.
Yeah.
But now her actual name is out there. I mean, spies are supposed to be disavowable. She's now the least disavowable spy. She can never have any other espionage work. Again, I guess you could argue that they released her name out of pure, vindictiveness. But again, I don't know if that happened after Civil War or pre-Civil War. So who knows? Maybe they wanted to burn bridges. But anyway, so she's there watching fucking James Bond. And then she gets from her friend... Rick Mason, a package featuring a little case of something. See, before that scene, we got a scene with all grown-up Yelena Belova hunting down a target somewhere in Morocco and managed to kill that person. But before she can, that person sprays her a bunch of red mist stuff. And this undoes her Red Room psychological, chemical, brain-altering training. See, apparently Natasha, when she was in Red Room, was all psychological training, but later on with Yelena and a bunch of others, it was just pure mind control. Because that's what this movie is all about. Just undoing the mind control stuff, which is fine. I expected more.
Yeah, it's not interesting.
Well, it could be interesting. It really could be interesting. And in fairness, the movie tries. And again, the opening credits for this movie, set to a really slow version of Nirvana's classic song, Smells Like Teen Spirit, featuring all of them being shipped over to Russian, in crates, a bunch of little girls, her and Yelena getting separated, her being trained by the Red Room, with all this spy espionage, target stuff, photographs and stuff of Ray Winston pop up all the time. And that looks cool. That looks espionage-y. That highlights all the brutality and abuse that these girls have been through. But the movie doesn't really follow through with that. At least not in an overt way.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of annoying. And so Yelena gets free of the mind control, and the first thing she do is, oh, I know, I'll send it to my pseudo-sister who's an Avenger. Actually, that doesn't make a bit of sense. She'll send it to her sister who's an Avenger, not quite realizing that her sister has since gone on the run from the Avengers and is no longer an Avenger.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's kind of a good plan, bad plan scenario. And because Natasha now has the undo button gas on the mind control stuff, she is targeted by the Taskmaster. Dun dun dun.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Taskmaster. Taskmaster. You familiar with the Taskmaster character from the comics?
No, I assume that they did a shit job with this person, with this character. But you guys can just all cry about it. It's whatever.
It's not that they did a shit job with it. It's just that at first it was disconcerting because the character is very different from how they are in the comics. Like the skull mask and the sword and the shield and the ability to mimic other people's fighting styles. That's in the comics. But it's a very different backstory, a very different character. And when this was revealed later on in the movie, I thought like, oh, okay, this could be interesting. They do nothing with it! There's nothing that captures my interest in a great way. Okay, spoiler alert for the rest of the movie. It turns out Ray Winstone plays this bad guy. What the fuck is his name? I can barely even remember. Dreykov. General Dreykov. Which is such a stereotypical Russian bad guy name. But it turns out he has a daughter, and she was killed while Natasha, years ago, when she was trying to defect to S.H.I.E.L.D., tried to kill him. She thought she had killed him. She turned out she didn't, but she did manage to kill the daughter, and she's like, oh, really broken up about it. Okay, fine. And since then, she got horrifically scarred and mutilated, and they used a bunch of cybernetic enhancements in her brain stuff to turn her into a living weapon. In the comics, she was a guy and had a personality. And frankly, I'd be willing to lose the guy aspect if they kept the personality aspect. And they don't. And the worst part is, she's played as an adult by Olga Kurilenko. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Who's a great actor. If you ever seen her in things like Death of Stalin, she's really great in that. And she has no lines in the movie except for like one or two.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what those lines are. And she's just sort of there. And she has the mask on for most of the movie. And it's just kind of disappointing. Like, okay, you want to do something different. Okay, cool, that's great. You can reinvent this character. That's fine. He's not exactly a beloved character. Not like, say, like Iron Man or Captain America or Captain Marvel is. So who cares? But Taskmaster is not in enough scenes. Would have been way more interesting if she was in an Avengers movie, which you could actually fight a lot of different people utilizing their fighting styles against them. Like she made reference to like Captain America's fighting style and Black Panther's fighting style and Black Widow's fighting style, but she's just fighting against Black Widow, so who cares? And they keep it a big mystery as to who Taskmaster is. But you know it's going to be Olga Kurilenko because her name is in the credits. She's a pretty big name actor. And yet she doesn't turn up for most of the movie until it's revealed like in the third act. So it's like, obviously it's going to be Olga Kurilenko. And she has no lines and she just sort of turns up way too sporadically. And overall, she just comes across like a C+ Winter Soldier.
Yep.
It's really disappointing because she could have been so cool, but no, she just Winter Soldier, but without the huge emotional impact. I'm going to try and replicate that, but it just, you can tell like they just needed to take everything in this movie just an extra step further, just an extra step. People describe this movie as disappointing, and this is why. Not because it's bad, but because they just needed to go just a little bit further, and it would have been interesting and unique. And actually, it's not.
Yep.
What is interesting is Florence Pugh's? I don't know how to pronounce anyone in this movie's name. God damn it. Performance as Yelena Belova. After she gets her mind back, she's like instantly just like,
she's great.
She's done with the Red Room. She and Black Widow, after surviving an encounter with Taskmaster, tracks her down to Budapest. Oh, I'm sorry, Budapest. And they meet in this flat, and I'm thinking, like, they're going to have a fight, aren't they? They're going to have a fight. They're not going to try and talk about things.
It's in the trailer. It's in the trailer, so yeah.
I know, but I didn't see the trailer, so I'm just looking at things thinking, like, I thought, okay, are they going to do like a double twist? Like, it seems like they're bound to fight, but actually they'll just have an honest conversation. No, they're going to fight, and I know that it's not going to resolve anything, and they're going to stop fighting. And yeah, the fighting is cool in the typical over-stylized Hollywood way. But it helps both Florence and Scarlett are both very committed to their roles, and they go at it really hard. They don't hold anything back, and that stops it from being completely and utterly annoying. But eventually they stop fighting and talk, and there's a bit of animosity there, despite the fact that there really shouldn't be. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either.
But then she fills Natasha in on everything, and they're just like, okay, so we'll need to, free all the widows and take down the Red Room once for all, because Natasha thought that it was all gone, and it wasn't. But then they get attacked by a bunch of other widows. And I thought, oh, now this is going to be cool. A bunch of different Black Widows all fighting each other. No, they run away from them. And there's a scene where one Black Widow is forced by General McEvil name to blow herself up with her own wrist gadget thing. And that was kind of interesting. But we already knew that people were being controlled, so it wasn't exactly shocking.
Can I also just say, this is the first time, too, where for a movie that we had to wait so long for because of the pandemic, the CGI in this movie is dog shit. Yeah, it's so bad. I'm like, if you had all this time with this movie just sitting here, why didn't you use that time to make the CG better? Because it is so noticeable and so bad.
I can't follow that. It's really not great. I've seen worse, but for movies with this sort of budget, with this sort of, pedigree, with this sort of, amount of force behind it, it's inexcusable. It should have been better. It's really bad, especially with Taskmaster. I don't know if they had a stunt performer or if they just got Olga in there doing her own stunts, but sometimes it's just her fighting, and other times it's just like a PlayStation 4 version of her.
Yeah.
It's really fucking noticeable because human spines are not meant to stretch that way, movie. So they're running away from all these other Black Widows, and they manage to get away, and then they come to the part of the movie where they start having a bit of a conversation, get to know each other, what they've been up to. And thank God these are two good actors in this movie because of the dialogue. I mean, sometimes it's okay, but only if you can stomach that kind of dialogue, which I can. Jillian, I'm sure it must have been frustrating for you.
Actually, no, I was actually okay with it because the performances are so good.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
So it didn't bother me.
Oh, look, she's making fun of the fact that she does, superhero poses when she lands. Oh, that's really funny. It'd be really cool if Deadpool hadn't already done that years ago.
Yep.
You're not adding anything new. And, but they realize that, okay, so we need to take down the Red Room. I know who we'll go to. David Harbour. I mean, he's going to be in Russia in season 4 of Stranger Things, so why not?
Yeah.
And
they just left him they just leave him in Russia when he's done filming for this movie.
Just,
They're just
everything
you can just stay there.
Okay, everyone, we're done with David Harbour, leaving him Siberia. Can I not stay here? No, you can't. We're going to put you in Russia. And he's in prison in Russia, and he was like this huge communist superhero, the Red Guardian. And he had their... Oh, this is so stupid. He was their own super soldier, but after the whole thing with like the mind control experiments stuff that they stole from the US at the beginning of the movie, he got put in prison. No, they do not answer the question as to why. And two, so the Russians were able to build their own super soldier serum. I know they kind of did that with Winter Soldier, but they had to supplement it with a whole bunch of cybernetics and stuff. And I guess they were able to do it successfully with him, but he was the only one? Why didn't they do that with other people? Why didn't they combine the Black Widows and like Super Soldier Serum together? Why the fuck is he the only one? Because I thought was this whole point about the Super Soldier Serum was that it was only made by one guy, and the secret for it died with him, with Captain America. And the only other time someone was able to replicate it was the Red Skull, and that fucked him up and turned him into a Red Skull thing. So why didn't that fuck him up? This raises so many questions!
Yeah, I don't know. I just chalked it up to some comic book shit. It's something in the comics.
No, this wasn't in the comics. As far as I'm aware, this is just the movie. If it was in the comics, then they could say, oh, look, we were just adapting the comics. And that's not a perfect excuse, but it's understandable.
So the Red Guardian is a completely new character?
No, the Red Guardian was in the comics. He was just completely different, much like Taskmaster.
Gotcha.
And it's nothing like... And I'm fine with reinventing characters, because it's a movie. It's an adaptation. You're allowed to do that. But I just want the movie to be consistent with its own logic. You have a super soldier, you have a superhero who wants to fight for Russia. Why did they put him in prison? I don't get it. He complains about like, oh, General Evil McNasty name, he put me in prison, so I don't like him. Okay, great, fine. Why did he put you in prison?
Yeah.
Explain, movie. Fucking explain. But they don't. They just show him breaking people's arms in, like, arm wrestling competition, talking about how he fought Captain America, which never happened. And it makes you wonder, is this guy just a liar, or has he got a tenuous grip on reality? Never gets explained either. And for God's sake, they show that he has action figures. They made, like, communist action figures of Red Guardian.
Yep.
With Kung Fu grip. I don't get it. Why would they lock him in prison? It just raises a lot of questions. So, Natasha and Yelena break him out of prison, and
another terrible scene.
Yeah, it goes on way too long. That was my biggest thing. They just get him out of prison. Just get him out of prison already. But he's jumping all around place. They're swinging around in this helicopter, and then suddenly there's an avalanche of snow.
It's also just frustrating because Natasha and Yelena are supposed to be like good at their jobs, and the fact that they fucked up this prison break so bad to the point where they potentially killed thousands of people with an avalanche. It just is like, why? Why did this happen? It's as if they were playing Dungeons and Dragons and they all rolled that once or some shit. Because it's like just so, I'm just like, how did we get here?
I mean, but the biggest problem for me is like when Natasha's shouting up at the helicopter at Yelena, like, what are you doing? Come on, I'm standing right here. And you know it's Scarlett Johansson putting on her, comedy movie voice rather than a Black Widow voice. And it's just like, why would she do this? Why would she stop in the middle of an action scene just to berate the person in the helicopter who can't fucking hear her?
Yeah.
Hey, stop what you're doing. What? No, it's there. And then they pick him up, take him away, and
kill a couple 100,000 people,
Kill a couple 100,000 people. They have a conversation in the helicopter all about, their reproductive organs. That was a fun conversation. Talk about how they got forced hysterectomies.
It also just made me have questions again, because I was under the impression, and again, maybe I got it completely wrong. I was under the impression in Age of Ultron that they just tied their tubes, not that they had full hysterectomies, because then they have to go through years of hot flashes and shit. Like, how is that productive towards their programming? I just have a lot of questions about this.
we should not be asking the question, wait, does that mean they were just completely mutilated or just borderline sterilized? Like, what's going on here? And yeah, it's really... It's really stupid, and the worst part is it's play for laughs. That they're trying to make him uncomfortable, talking about lady bits. It's really fucking stupid. And then they land, and he's got like this whole revisionist history about them and their pseudo family. But then he reveals like, oh, I don't know where the Red Room is. Why would you think I would know? I'm just the muscle. And I'm just sitting here thinking, that's a good point. Why would they think he would know?
Because I guess they thought that him and the McEvil McNasty were just like this, and they weren't. But they knew he was in prison,
so I maybe.
Again, this is part of what I didn't like about this movie. So
just that they're not very good at their jobs.
Yeah. Which is what makes it disappointing, because this is supposed to be peak Black Widow at her job, and she fucking sucks at it the entire movie.
She just seems like she's stumbling from one thing into another.
Yep.
And she then stumbles onto Melina. They got to go to her. She's got like this pig farm where she's like mind controlling pigs. For what reason? I don't know. It seems like the technology has already been perfected later on in the movie. So what's the point of her experiment with it? Does she just like running mazes with pigs? Is that how she gets her jollies? I mean, it's good to have a hobby, but still. And so they go over there and it's like, oh, now that we're one big happy family again. The family that she's never talked about before and never will talk about again.
Yep.
And it's... Admittedly, the whole like dinner scene is pretty cool. Not because of Natasha and Yelena, but because of Rachel Weisz's and David Harbour's pseudo flirting.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell they're not really being serious about it, but just like they're two old friends who presumably had to fuck for Mother Russia. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's just like old colleagues that had that one fling almost. And again, it helps that these are very good actors that have natural chemistry. So it makes up for the fact that I don't care about what's going on, and the movie is basically stopped dead in its tracks. And Florence Pugh Yelena gets all huffy, just like, oh, you thought you weren't a real family, but I was 6 years old and I thought we were a real family. She goes off in a huff. David Harbour follows her, gives her a weird story about how his dad had to piss on him one time. No, I'm not joking. And oh god! But then they followed up with him and her singing her song from when she was a kid, "American Pie," and it's just like, damn it, that's kind of sweet.
Yeah.
But it was preceded by a story about how he got frostbite on his hands and his dad had to piss on them.
Yeah.
One of these things is not like the other. This should have been a serious movie. I like Marvel's humor when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
It's not used in an appropriate way. I know I'm alone in this. I know a lot of people don't like Marvel's humor, but god damn it, I do, and I don't like it when it's misused. It's really annoying. And what's also annoying is betrayal, because it turns out Melina called the Red Room.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
And so Yelena goes out to find Nat after David Harbour gets... so he gets shot by a tranquilizer dart through the window. It's like, it will take more than that to stop. Gets hit by a load more tranquilizer darts.
There's also that scene with the family photo album, which also just fucking confused me, because I was under the impression that the reason why Yelena, the whole movie, why she thought that this was a real family is because they were there for 3 years. She was 6 when they had to leave. So she was from 3 to 6 thinking that they were a real family. But then they show the photo album and Natasha's like, yeah, we had to fake all those pictures in one afternoon. And it's like, wait, what? How did this little girl not realize that something was wrong if you're faking all these holiday photos? And why are you faking them if you lived there for 3 years?
I mean, did they not actually celebrate Christmas at all during those 3 years?
I'm just so confused. So confused for no reason.
This is the thing. This is a movie of half ideas.
Yeah.
Ideas. Good ideas, but they're half good ideas, which is not a good idea. And, God, and so they discover Natasha has been tranquilized by Melina, who's now got on her own Black Widow, because it turns out she was a Black Widow that had been through the Red Room. And they get transported, and it turns out that the Red Room is actually a big floating helicarrier fortress in the sky. I guess S.H.I.E.L.D. was asleep at the wheel this whole time, because despite monitoring the whole world, they didn't notice that the Red Room was fucking floating in the goddamn sky!
Yep.
It looks cool, but looking cool isn't enough, movie. It isn't enough. God, and if you're wondering why we're breezing through this movie so fast, it's because, honestly, there's not a ton to talk about. I mean, it's 2 hours, and actually, very little happens in it, which is concerning. And scenes get dragged out a lot, and for good or bad, there are good scenes in this movie. Scenes where people are sitting down and talking, and some of the fight scenes are kind of interesting, but everything just gets dragged out. This is a filler movie that's full of filler. The padding is suffocating me.
Yeah, but Yelena's great, so,
Yeah, but it's true, and it's true. Florence Pugh's performance has been noted by critics as one of the standards of the movie, and that is true. And we know that later on in the MCU we're going to be seeing more of her, and I'm looking forward to that. But I kind of feel like if this movie was just about her and Natalie, like they were on opposing sides or something, that might have been more interesting. But even then, the problem with that is we already got that in Captain America the Winter Soldier. We've already seen this. So, again, they should have just contacted me. Hire me to do a treatment for this movie. Black Widow and Hawkeye go on the run against S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Red Room, trying to sort out this whole mess.
The reason why they didn't do that is because they wanted to introduce Yelena. That's the only reason.
Well, that's the thing, you see. She could have been in that movie, too. She could have been her best friend in the Red Room, like they grew up together and stuff, and she was the one that got sent out to take her down. And now it's like, oh no, I've got to choose between my new friend Hawkeye and my old friend Yelena. That could have been interesting.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. In the world of spies, in the world of Black Widow, it is a world that is supposed to be morally grey. There is no moral greyness in the movie. There are clear good guys and clear bad guys, which I'm sure must be refreshing for Black Widow, but that's not really what a movie about her is supposed to be about.
Yep.
It's supposed to be full of moral ambiguity, because the world of espionage is full of moral ambiguity. I've seen great espionage films, action films, or even, contemporary low-key dramas where moral ambiguity really works well. Fuck it, if you want to watch a really cool thing, just watch a fucking John le Carre adaptation. I think there was a movie out a few years ago with what's her face, Jennifer Lawrence, called Red Sparrow, which I didn't see, but I'm sure it'll be more interesting than this movie. And that's the thing, this movie is not bad because it's competent. It's got good performances, decent action scenes, and it's not totally infuriating, but it's not interesting. This movie is completely uninteresting. And not even the addition of, I can't believe I am so glad I'm in a position to say this, not even Russian Ray Winston can save this movie. I say Russian Ray Winston, not just because it's really hard for me to say Russian Ray Winston without saying Russian Way Winston, but because he's not even Russian, because that is the worst Russian accent I've ever heard in my life. It's truly bad. He sounds so cockney. It doesn't help that he's barely in the movie. Like, he's supposed to be like the main bad guy in the movie. He's barely in it.
Yep.
Just in the background for some of the scenes. And Again, that'll be fine if we focused on Taskmaster more. Barely in the movie. This movie's just, it's pinballing. It's going from plot point to plot point, but not in a targeted way, and just like, ooh, let's let the forces of gravity take us where we may, and let's hope we hit the right target. And they do, but you can tell it's more an accident than on purpose. Except for this one scene. Because Melina betrayed them, sedated them, and like put Natasha in a cell with Red Guardian. Yelena gets strapped to a gun, is about to be like lobotomized or like reimplanted with mind control tech and something. And Melina goes to visit Russian Ray Winston. Except it's not Melina, it's actually Natasha. She had a fake face on the whole time. Wait, we already saw that in fucking Winter Soldier. Does this movie have any new ideas?
No.
It's just want something. I mean, for God's sakes, not even David Harbour with a Russian accent and a beer gut and tattoos knocking people through walls can save this movie. If that can't work, what can? This should have been the easiest movie to make cool. It's fucking Black Widow. One of the coolest Avengers. How do you fuck this up? Did they just not care? Was it made out of obligation? Was it because this whole big huge phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe had ended and they just didn't know what to do next? Were they victims of their own success? Did time catch up with them? Do you have any ideas? Help me out here, Jillian. I feel like I'm floating in the ocean
honestly,
without a life raft.
I don't know. I just feel like every time they've tried to focus on, aside from WandaVision, every time they've tried to focus on a woman superhero, they've just failed at it. And I don't understand why. I really don't get it.
I don't get it either. Because maybe it's because they think that just showing the female lead and that sort of representation is enough.
Yeah,
which
but
it
it's
isn't.
not.
No, it completely isn't. That makes the movie important. It does not, however, make it good. You have to put in that effort. And this is what Wonder Woman 1984 fell into, that sort of trap. And I don't know. I think this movie is better than that movie. I do think it's better than Captain Marvel. But Captain Marvel, I was invested in Captain Marvel. I was interested to see where the story was going. I know Jillian is shaking her head right now. She was not invested.
Nope.
But here's the thing. I was invested, but I didn't really care about the characters, except for Nick Fury. Here, I care about these characters, but I'm not invested in the story. I just can't get any sort of satisfaction, no matter which film I look to. And
just rewatch Wonder Woman. It's
yeah,
the only way to go.
I might have
at this point.
Because I cared about that story and I cared about those characters. They were all interesting characters, and it was a story that I could really get engaged with. Here, I just can't. It feels like such. It's like they took these Marvel characters, these interesting, dynamic Marvel characters, out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and put them in a bog standard Fast and the Furious movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Oh no! This is much worse.
It's frustrating, to say the least. And what you think, however, that a little bit of frustration will be alleviated when Black Widow beats the ever-loving piss out of Russian Ray Winston. However, she can't because... Oh, I fucking love this. This is great.
So fucking dumb.
She has this like psychological thing where she's conditioned not to attack him because of, and I'm so sorry, his pheromones.
It's so fucking dumb.
It's so gross and so weird and so out of nowhere. It's just like, oh yeah, you completely broke your psychological programming and stuff and turned to Vector, but I guess the stench of my cologne is enough to overpower you, Natasha Romanoff.
And this is where things like Captain Marvel and this movie piss me off, is with these so blatantly obvious things about why men are bad and how they control women. It's like these such stupid concepts that really piss me off. Like, this is worse, I think, than some of the shit Captain Marvel was doing. But
we don't need to make up fantastic sci-fi stories about how men abuse women, because we have sadly, countless real-world examples that this movie could use. Human trafficking, sexual slavery, forced female circumcision. There's countless laundry lists of abuses against women from multiple different nations, multiple different cultures, from multiple different people. And this movie went with mind control super spies and acts like it's on the same level as those other examples, and it's not.
No, this is why Captain Marvel pissed me off.
Yeah, because we have to hold her back and stop her from reaching her full potential with...
Yes!
Which was, again, it wasn't in the comics and was stupid even in the context of the movie. And God, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. And Ray Winston goes on to this whole thing about how because he has Black Widows all over the world, that means he technically controls the world. And it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So every single conflict that's been going on in the movie, he's had a hand in. That's really interesting. They don't show that, and they don't give any evidence of that, so we don't know if that's actually happening, or if he's just, blowing his own trumpet. And oh God, it's God, and so Black Widow, and it turns out Black Widow got told about the whole pheromone thing from Melina early in the movie, because it turns out they hatched this whole plot together. She wasn't actually betraying them. She was like, they were making this whole thing to infiltrate and take down the Red Room. Okay, fine, cool. It's like the one bit of espionage double twisty stuff in the entire movie. Cherish it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which told him about the pheromone, and it turns out there's an exact nerve in the brain that can completely disable it, and you have to disconnect that nerve, I guess, by thwacking your head on a desk.
No, it's the nose. You gotta break your nose.
Oh, I'm sorry. That makes much more sense.
Because then you can't smell it.
Okay, that's still stupid, Jillian.
Yeah,
that doesn't
the whole fucking thing is stupid, with the whole fact that we have to start with the shit of, I smell so good that you can't hurt me. Jesus Christ.
Oh, God.
I feel like, to a degree, I think there's women and men that wrote this screenplay. I feel like it was the man that contributed that story plot. Because if a woman contributed that story plot, girl, you need to reevaluate your life. Because this is
the stage of his Old Spice is overpowering me.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you need to rethink about your life decisions. Or maybe they just have had the pleasure of smelling really great men's cologne. I'm not sure. But...
And half the problem is that there's so many all these weird ads for cologne. Speaking of which, here are some ads. Yeah, I know that's a stupid segue. What the hell are you going to do about it? So Black Widow breaks her nose, and this means she can't smell good no more. And this enables her to beat the ever-loving piss out of Ray Winston. So she does that. And but he calls in all the other Black Widows, full-on fight scene. Red Guardian has a fight scene with Taskmaster. Oh, this is also where they reveal that Taskmaster is actually his daughter. It has all the emotional weight of a small feather lightly breezing through the breeze and landing on your face.
I also feel so bad for the Red Guardian in this movie, because it felt like he was going to be such a cool character, and his fight with Taskmaster is just pathetic.
Yeah.
It's not cool in any way. He doesn't do anything cool in the movie. He has some funny lines, and it's I just felt like he was going to be a way more fun character than what we got. Also, super disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, there was, of course, where he pulled two guards up through a window, but that's it. This would have been the time for him to really let loose.
Yes.
He doesn't.
Nope.
He fucking doesn't.
He gets his ass kicked, quite frankly.
Yeah. It's stupid. This whole movie's stupid. Florence Pugh is making her way through the whole facility, cracking one-liners. Melina is taking out bad guys with like a grenade launcher. Oh, there's this one scene where she like escapes the devastation of the huge explosion by ziplining up towards the ceiling, and then it immediately cuts to her walking along a gangplank. It's such a bizarre edit. It's so out of nowhere. This again, months delayed due to the pandemic. They couldn't make that seem a bit more seamless. No, God. And so Ray Winston and a bunch of thugs escape for a plane. The whole facility is going up in smoke. They manage to mind control all the Black Widows. Cool. They start escaping. Yelena gets knocked overboard trying to blow up Ray Winston's ship. They do that. He gets engulfed in fire, and then his glasses fly off screen. It's really underwhelming, in fairness. Don't let that sound effect fool you. It's really underwhelming. And this whole scene with the facility exploding, this is when the CGI truly gets dreadful.
Yeah, it's so bad.
And they're all just falling all over the place. Taskmaster's trying to hunt them down. It's this whole thing. And then Black Widow like grabs a parachute and dives off to Florence Pugh. Grabs her, gives her the parachute, then starts falling again. Grabs onto Taskmaster. They have their own parachutes. They land on the ground. That's not how parachutes work. Speaking from personal experience, you need to start that parachute really high up in the air. You can't just do it a few feet from the ground and then boom, you're fine. That's how your spine gets severed in two. First, Cruella has a really bad parachute scene. Now this movie. What the fuck? I don't get it. And so then they have another fight scene on the ground. It's underwhelming. They managed to mind control her. Olga Kurylenko is allowed to speak for the first time. Hooray. And they're just like, is he gone? And she's like, yes. And then they have a nice little hug. It's like, oh. Here's an idea. What if she was the only one that wasn't mind controlled? What if she was doing this of her own volition? What if she genuinely believed in her father's ideals and Black Widow tries to mind control and finds out like, oh, did you think I was mind controlled? No, I want to do this. Wouldn't that have been kind of cool?
Yep.
But no, she just gets freed. Yelena Belova is fine. Red Guardian and Rachel Weisz are fine. All the other Black Widows are fine. They come back for her. They take Yelena and Olga away. It's just like, don't worry, we'll take care of ourselves. And I know we've been raised in this one like facility and taught to be assassins our whole lives and have no real identity beyond that because we've been mind controlled since we were young children. And, we don't know how to survive in the real world, really. But it's fine because Black Widow said, now we get to make our own choices.
Yeah.
What is your plan? What is your plan? Where are you going to go? How are you going to live? Are you all going to defect to S.H.I.E.L.D.? I don't know if S.H.I.E.L.D. was even around anymore. It's a whole thing. They fly off, but because Black Widow, again, activated her tracker that she has. I don't know. So now William Hurt and the posse are coming, even though they're American military, and I'm given to understand this place is in Russia. Why did they have authority there? They don't have authority in Norway, but they do in Russia? I don't claim to be an expert on foreign policy, but...
I didn't even realize that they found her because they turned the tracker on. Because she turned the tracker on. I thought they just knew because a giant thing, fell from the sky.
But even if that was the case, how were they on the scene so quickly?
I don't know. Maybe they just happened to be in the area stopping by. Oh, what a coincidence.
It crashed 2 minutes ago and they're on the scene. Are they teleporters? I don't know. They just have to get William Hurt in there.
People would see it crashing for a while. I mean, it's going to take a bit for it to fall.
Okay, so let's say a good solid half an hour of crashing. There's a whole ocean in between Russia and the United States.
Yeah,
This waiting in the forest, just See anything yet? No. See anything yet? No.
Yeah,
See anything yet? Oh, yes, actually, it's crashing. Really? Dragons roll! And it leaves like with her about to supposedly hold them off. Don't know why she couldn't just go with the rest of them. They're in cars. They have a plane. They're not going to be able to catch up to them, Natasha.
Yep.
And so it's like, okay, cool. So now she's going to have to fight off a bunch of these dudes or maybe even surrender and try and figure out where to go from there. No, just cut back to 2 weeks later. She's blonde then. It still looks terrible. And catching up with a friend who just has access to a hyper-advanced jet plane. Where the fuck did he get that? He's like, see what happens when you give me some time and money? You're supposed to be like a criminal contractor out living on the outskirts of society. How the fuck are you able to get a motherfucking Quinjet? I don't understand. I fucking don't understand. And she's like, I know what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to go and save my friends and lock up. Might we get a Captain America cameo? No? Okay, fine. We couldn't get Chris back. That's fine. That's okay. I don't miss him at all. Then, oh god. So usually these movies have like really cool, dynamic, artsy credits, featuring all the characters' names and stuff, and the actors' names. We don't get that. Just cuts to bog standard credits. It's the most underwhelming ending to a Marvel movie I've seen in a long time.
Yep.
I don't get it. Oh, but don't worry. We get a post-credit scene in actual present day. Yelena is, crying over Natasha's grave. Kind of sweet, like, oh, she misses her sister. And who's there blowing her nose next to her? It's only Julie Louise-Dreyfus! You know?
Sure. Yeah, why not?
From Captain America: The Winter Soldier?
Yeah. Cool.
I like this character. Is it just me?
I don't remember her that much, to be honest.
She was very much a side character in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, when she played Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. And funny enough, this was supposed to be her first appearance in the MCU, but because Black Widow was delayed so much, it became, retroactively, her second appearance. I think that's why her hair color is slightly different in this movie than in Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Sorry, I keep calling it Captain America and the Winter Soldier. It's Falcon the Winter Soldier, but he becomes Captain America. I don't know. And just
that's why I don't know her, because I didn't finish Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I only watched 2 episodes, and then I was like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah, okay. Wow, Jillian. Wow, it gets so much better. So she turns up in like the 3rd or 4th episode, I can't remember. But she's really cool in that show, actually. She's really interesting. Julie Louis-Dreyfus has a lot of fun playing her. And in this movie, she turns up, holds up a picture of Clint Barton. It's like, hey, do you want revenge on the person who killed your sister? Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, you can tell she's going to turn up in the upcoming Hawkeye show.
Yep.
Bet you anything. Again, though, one conversation's going to undo that. You killed my sister. No, she committed suicide in order to save the whole universe. Really? Yeah. Huh. I'm going to need further context, but okay. You're not setting up the massive conflict you think you are, movie. And that's Black Widow. Disappointing. I know we've complained a lot about the movie, but there are good stuff. Honestly, it's difficult. When a podcast format like this, it's difficult to talk about the performances when they're so solid, but they really are very good.
Yeah.
Some actors are not given enough time to shine, like Olga Kurylenko. Some actors have really bad accents, like Ray Winston. But most of them are genuinely good. Scarlett Johansson is fantastic. She has a lot of chemistry with Florence Pugh, and they mark off together really well. You can tell that there's a familiarity to them that's belied by also a huge distance that time has given them. They're two completely different people, but you can tell deep down they still care about each other. That's tricky to pull off in a movie like this, where you've got to cram a whole bunch of lore in all at once that hasn't been set up at all. And they do that really well.
Yeah.
And David Harbour was a lot of fun. Rachel Weisz is a lot of fun. There are moments of fun in this movie, but you don't need it. I don't need it. Like, I need Guardians of the Galaxy. I need Spider-Man Homecoming. I need Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2, people. I need that. You might not need that, but I need that. I don't need this movie. I wanted it, but not like this. It's disappointing.
Yep.
And it didn't have to be.
Nope.
Leaving aside the fact the pandemic and the delay, and like, people could have worked on this for longer. Reshoots might not have been possible, but they could have tweaked some things, edited it better, and spent some time on the CGI. But no, this feels like a movie made out of obligation. Like, okay, we got to do a Black Widow movie. Here's your Black Widow movie. Honestly, I'd rather have nothing. I would still be complaining, don't get me wrong. Where's my Black Widow movie? But at least then I wouldn't have been disappointed so. I feel betrayed, honestly. I feel a little bit betrayed.
Yep.
It's... And again, it could have worked. It really could have worked. But, I mean, what were you hoping? Did you have any expectations for this movie?
You mean recently, or like in the before times of the pandemic?
I mean, do both.
Because in the before times, I just wanted a story about what happened in Budapest. That was what I wanted. I was completely committed to that idea. And then I saw the trailer and I'm like, okay, this looks fine. But then as they kept delaying it, I just kept getting this feeling that it was going to be a disappointment. And then I just started being like, you know what, I probably don't even realistically need to watch this movie. And then you told me, hey, we want to review it. And I said, fine, I'll spend the $30 and watch the fucking movie.
Hey, I didn't make you do that, okay? I saw this in the cinema. I know that might not have been possible for you, but...
I mean, it would have been the same amount, I think, movie tickets here.
Holy shit, really?
Well, if it's me and Andrew going, yeah.
I suppose, because, that may actually make sense because over here in the UK, it's £19.99. Average cinema ticket for someone is about £10, so that makes sense for two people. But even so, that's still... apparently, Disney have done some research, and apparently there's a huge uptick in people watching their Premier Access movies after they come out of Premier Access. I wonder why. Maybe people don't like paying extra money on top of subscription service they're already paying for. Who knows? Oh, God. And this is the thing. I know it's hard to see movies, especially during these uncertain times. Britain is supposedly coming out of restrictions when they really shouldn't be. It's a whole fucking mess. But honestly, if you're going to see any movie, I can't really recommend this in terms of cinema. Although apparently people don't listen to me because this movie broke pandemic box office records. It has so far, on a budget of 200 million, very recent release, came out box office of 158.8 million, so it's doing pretty good so far for only being out for a couple of days. It's gotten favorable reviews, like I said, 80% Rotten Tomatoes at time of recording. People really like Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh, rightly so. So this, again, like we said at the beginning, this movie is not without merits. But the downsides are its genericness.
Yeah.
It's just, God, I don't know why, just out of sheer morbid curiosity, I watched like a recap on YouTube of all the Fast and Furious movies, just out of sheer morbid curiosity, because I don't watch those movies. Honestly, you could intercut scenes from Black Widow with those later Fast and Furious movies. Interchangeable. Completely interchangeable. And they shouldn't be. This should stand out. This could have been cool and creative. Do you remember that movie? We actually talked about it on the show ages ago. That movie Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron.
I haven't seen that movie.
But this movie should have been a bit more like that. It's like this colder city, John le Carre, sort of cool, slick, admittedly slightly high octane action spy thriller. And it's not. It's just this muck action movie. And it does its characters and its actors a disservice by that. I don't know what problems they have with that, but again, the first 20 minutes of the movie set it up as that, but doesn't follow through, and it's so annoying. Kate Shortland said that she wants to come back to the MCU and enjoy that. Good for her. I guess it's competently directed. CGI wouldn't necessarily lay at her. I say competent. Which is bare minimum. Let's be honest.
Yep.
And the stories by Jack Schaefer, Ned Benson, screenplays by Eric Pearson. He's also wrote Thor Ragnarok. Cool. Guess we know who made the jokes in this movie. And honestly, that's it. There's not much more we can talk about that. I remember watching Marvel films, up to the most recent ones, and thinking about them for days afterwards. I wanted to go back to them and see them again in the cinema, and I wanted to talk about them with people. After this show, I'm not going to think about Black Widow, the movie.
Nope.
I'm going to move on. I'm going to think about something else. I'm going to fucking play some video games or something. I don't know.
I'm going to be thinking about Loki.
Yeah.
That's where it's at right now.
Yeah. Oh, side note, Capers, next week, Loki. Does it finish next week?
Yeah, next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. So this episode will be coming out that day then, and we will be reviewing it, having the full review up the week after. So next episode from this one, Capers, next episode we will be talking about Loki. We'll have a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Because Loki took risks and tried new things, and this movie honestly didn't. It feels very safe and kind of boring for it. And only, the old line and committed performances saved from that. Thank God. Otherwise, I honestly would have had a really bad time. This movie was saved by the skin of its teeth from complete and utter awfulness, instead falling squarely into the category of irrelevance. And frankly, I don't know which is worse. I mean, would you prefer to watch a bad movie that you think about a lot, or a movie that you just don't care about?
Probably a movie that I just don't care about, because the fact that I still think about Captain Marvel and it makes me angry, I don't want to be an angry person. So
see, I do. That anger fuels me, but that's just me.
I just want to be able to forget about it, and move on with my life.
And I think that's what we're all going to do with this one, which is a shame. This character deserves more. Scarlett Johansson deserves more. And that's Scarlett Johansson I'm talking about. So I mean it. So, yeah. Black Widow 2021. Skip it. Shit. Fuck, God. And on that horribly depressing note, it's time to end the show. Thank you very much, Jillian, for joining me today.
Yeah, of course.
And if you enjoy the show, Capers, please tell your friends, shout it from the rooftops. And if you haven't already, go back into some of our other super episodes, like the previous Marvel movies we've talked about. You can listen to the show on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, or at podcapes.com. If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics, or maybe come on the show yourself, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AP2HYC. Thank you very much to Dan Harris for our logo, the lovely microphone, the red and blue 3D glasses. Those are mine. And thank you for listening. This has been Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. Cue the music!